Excellent. Okay, so given there's a few folk here who may not be as aware of Social Enterprise Scotland, we're the membership and representative body for social enterprises in Scotland, and our role is around raising the profile of social enterprises and promoting what they do. It's ensuring that the expertise and contribution that they make to a well-being economy and a fairer country is recognised and valued. Part of our role is to represent members' interests and to reflect the needs, aspirations and challenges that social enterprises face and their communities. And I guess overall to ensure that there is a supportive policy environment where social enterprises can thrive. We also keep members informed through regular news bulletins and policy updates. And I guess a significant part of our role is to connect members and provide opportunities for networking and shared learning. And as part of that, we run these regular sessions for members and the wider social enterprise sector on hopefully areas of interest and relevance to them. So some of our sessions have a particular policy focus. We run regular funding and finance sessions. We look at hosting particular topical sessions. So for instance, last week we ran a session on the impact of cost of living on social enterprises. And today's session is focusing on the role that social enterprises play in the employability world. And I guess, you know, given the breadth that employability covers, all social enterprises will do employability in some way, shape or form. I guess just to throw some stats at you from the last census, as we eagerly await the launch of the current census, is that 55% of social enterprises employ someone with a disability or long-term health condition. 69% provide training or support intended to improve employability. And roughly 1 in 3 social enterprises provide training for employment as one of their main organisational goals. So I guess whether it is creating employment, whether it's supporting someone's employability journey, whether it's creating a supportive work environment, whether it's implementing fair work practices, social enterprises are right at the forefront of employability, and particularly for those who face barriers to employment. So without further ado, we're always keen to have a practitioner on these sessions, so someone who actually walks the walk. And I'm delighted that we've got 2 brilliant people from COPE joining us to tell us about the fantastic work they do across a number of different businesses in Shetland. So I am going to hand over to Sarah and Alison from COPE, who will tell you more. Over to you.
Thank you, Jane. Could we have the first slide, please?
That's not the first slide, is it?
Nope. That's lovely.
The first slide. Brilliant, thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. So I suppose, first of all, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Sarah Jackson and I am the business manager here at COPE Limited, and I've been with the enterprise for just over 10 years.
And I am Alison Moore. I'm the employability manager here at COPE. So I have been just over 6.5 years. I oversee all our placements for supported employees, the skill development side of the operations, but you'll hear a bit more about that as we go forward.
Yeah, I think what Alison and I will do this morning is I'll talk to start with a little bit about COPE and its history and the different businesses and how we operate, and then Alison will talk more about the employability, but we'll probably bounce back and forth off each other as well, and then we'll be open for questions at the end. So COPE Limited, established, I don't need that just yet. We should have practiced this, Jane. So COPE Limited is celebrating its 25th anniversary next year. It started with just one business, and the entrepreneur was a gentleman that thought there was a need in the local community for somewhere that we could offer somewhere supportive and work placements in a supportive environment. And that's how Cope Limited started. And it was one business. And then over the last 25 years, different businesses have emerged. And we currently have 4 businesses, and they offer a variety of tasks and opportunities in very different settings because everybody's needs are different. And we'll probably talk more about that later when Alison talks about employability. We're committed at Cope to giving adults the opportunity to work in a supportive environment. And that basically is what we do in a tiny nutshell, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Thank you, Jane. So this is our vision, that everyone, regardless of a disability, should have the opportunity to work if they so wish. Given the right conditions, we believe that all adults have the potential to contribute to our local economy, and in doing so, will learn to value themselves and others. And we really do live by that on a day-to-day basis. It's what underpins everything that we do here as an organisation. We all have a role in life, and we truly believe that everyone, given the right opportunities and conditions, can have that same feel-good factor about your day-to-day life and your working journey. Thank you. These are the values that we live by as well, and these are up in all our different businesses. And again, they underpin everything that we do here at Cope on a daily basis. So respect, we recognise each other's differences and show consideration for one another. Equality, we believe that everyone contributes equally to the success of our organisation, and as such will be valued and appreciated. Fairness, we are committed to the principles of social justice and opposing prejudice. Excellence, we believe in working hard to ensure we are the best we can be for our participants, staff and customers. Accountability, we account for our activities, accept responsibility for them, and to share the results in a transparent manner. Thank you, Jane. So I'll talk a little bit about the different enterprises that we have. So I think the first one that we have is the garden, I think. It's the next slide, Jane, thank you. Yeah, so the garden is probably the second business that came online. So it's probably just over 20 years old. It's based out at our main area in Grimmister. We have polytunnels that we can work inside. We have outside areas. It is also a retail area as well. So again, we concentrate on giving our participants a breadth of skill development. And again, it's all person-centered. So if a particular participant really wants to work in a retail environment and is very keen to work alongside the public, we can offer those kind of work placements. But other people might have that they're shy initially and they really don't want to be in front of the public, then we can find jobs for them out with and in the back and in production in the garden. I think when we talk about the other businesses, it's a very similar environment in all of those businesses that we can offer each individual a role that they really enjoy and will thrive in. Thank you, Jane. This is our Shetland Home Company. It's our reuse and recycling centre. Here we accept donations from our local community, and then we work as a team on the shop floor, selling these goods that have been slightly repaired or made sure that they're fit for purpose. And then you can see the bottom picture there. We also have a production area. So if there are electrical equipment, for instance, that we can't sell for whatever reason, then again, our participants love that job of being able to pull components apart and we actually recycle that. And obviously that generates money to sustain the enterprise as well. Again, skilled tasks, variety of tasks, because not everybody wants to do the same job. So we try and offer everybody an opportunity to try everything, and then they might hone in on a certain task that they really enjoy doing. Thank you, Jane. And then this is the Shetland Soap Company. It celebrates its 20th year this year. Again, very similar to the other two businesses, we offer a public facing. So we have a shop downstairs from where we are today on the main street here in Lerwick, where we sell our goods. And upstairs is our tiny production area, and that's where we hand make all our products. And you can see various shots of the team there in the shop and in production. And again, the same thing, it's person-centered. What do you want to get out of your work placement? Do you want to work in a retail environment? Do you want to work in an environment that makes great products? And we can actually mix it up for people as well, and then find out exactly what makes people tick, and they get the best out of that placement. Okay, thank you, Jane. And then last but not least, the Shetland Candle Company. Now, I've purposely not talked about the first company that started Cope, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it now. Cope started with one business, and it was the Shetland Kitchen Company. It was a small sandwich making business that started in one of the local authorities' day centres, and that quite quickly grew, and we moved into the current premises that we're still in at the moment. Sadly, we've had to make the really tough decision this year to pull that company down. During the pandemic, obviously that industry of catering and event catering has taken a hard knock, and we have tried to sustain it for the last year to 18 months. Isn't it? Yeah, it's in a very competitive market here in Shetland, but again, the pandemic has left its mark on that industry. However, we have sustained it as long as we can, because we very much have all the other businesses that can actually rally around and carry that business so that we can sustain the business to support the social purpose that went on within that company. However, the decision has recently been made that we really need to close the doors on Shetland Kitchen Company. But as you can see on the slide, we don't stand still in Cope. So we are beavering away at in the background at the moment to quietly launch the Shetland Candle Company. By offering this new and exciting project here at Cope, we have been able to make sure that all the staff and participants that worked at the Shetland Kitchen Company still have a position, still have a place with Cope. And this is a really exciting new project for us. There is a market for it. There is fantastic opportunities for our participants, and we're really, really excited about it. As we decide on new projects or decide to close projects, there's a criteria that we always look at in Cope. Will it make money for us to sustain the social purpose? And will it give us good skill development for our team? And if we can say yes to those two, then we propose to move on with a project. And that's what's happened with the Shetland Candle Company over the last 6 months. It's mooted itself in the background, and we've made that changeover in the last 2-3 weeks. And as I said, watch this space. Cope is always looking forward. We have a huge history that we can take experience and knowledge from, but we've always been ambitious, and we always look forward, and we move onwards all the time. So that's a pity bit about our enterprises, and I probably missed quite a bit of it, and we'll probably dip in later when Alison's talking. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about employability, and I'm going to hand over to Alison to talk more about employability.
Thank you, Sarah. Next slide, please, Jen. Yes, Sarah's chatted a bit about our enterprise and our businesses, and I'm going to chat to you now about the processes and how we make that work. So our social purpose and our focus on employability here in Shetland is that Cope provides employment and skill development for adults with learning disability or autism in Shetland. And this includes individuals living in the outer islands, as well as geographical spread across the mainland of Shetland, where service provides for ages of 18 to 65. We have a service level agreement, so a contract with the Shetland Islands Council to provide 100 placement sessions a week. At the moment, we have got 21 participants accessing those placements. Currently, we have some volunteers, but we're seeking to expand opportunities for volunteers within the organisation. We have got 5 supported employee positions in Cope, and we support a third sector organisation called Moving On to support them to provide placements for young people through the Developing Young Workforce. So we've worked quite closely with them over the years as well. Cope Limited works in partnership with the SIC and third sector organisations in Shetland who are involved in the local employability pathway, and I'm sure we'll chat a bit more about that as we go forward. Next slide, please. Thanks, Jen. So the referral process, individuals are referred into COPE through the Shetland Islands Council, and that's part of our contract. Each individual is assessed by the local authority through the Understanding New process. COPE Limited has got two kind of pathways into COPE, and that's very clearly stated on the referral form. That is actually quite new. We changed that just several years ago, and that was to really look at how we can support people move on, and it was in line with some of the changes in the local employability pathway. So one of our pathways is preparing for employability, and that's a programme to help people move towards paid employment. COPE Limited will offer and provide training in 6-month blocks up to a maximum of 18 months, with the aim of the individual being able to be referred into the employability agency or into paid employment. Now, obviously, the Scottish Government has put quite a lot of funding into Project Search. So Project Search now is part of somebody's journey here in Shetland, or we would obviously be referring people directly into the employability pathway if that was the right process and route for them. And the other pathway that we've got into COPE is work experience, and that is a programme to help people increase work-related skills, moving towards either paid employment or volunteering or unpaid work. COPE will work with individuals to reduce barriers to accessing paid or unpaid employment and promote confidence and independence. All placements, whether you're in either pathway into COPE, would be reviewed every 6 months, and that would usually be in line with somebody's community care review. But the work experience pathway is a maximum of 36-month support. We also provide taster sessions, so we would work with the local authority to give individuals taster sessions within some of our business units, and that would allow the participant to have the opportunity to see if the work environment is an area that they'd like to explore further. That's fine, thanks, Jen. And how do we do it? It's a very personal centered and holistic approach for each individual that comes into the organisation. I think that it goes without saying that if we weren't personal centered and we didn't have the holistic approach, people's placements and experiences at their work would possibly fail, or they wouldn't get the best experience. It's key that we're communicating with other individuals, and I'll speak a bit more about that as we move forward. We do advocate when necessary for participants or our supported employees, and that may be at a community care review or at a participants meeting, or if somebody's needing to communicate something back to their family that they may find a bit more challenging, they would we can help with that, supporting them too. We want to really be amplifying the voices of people with learning disability in Shetland. And as previously mentioned, we work in partnership with the SIC and other sector organisations involved with a local employability pathway to ensure that the correct measures and support are in place to be enabling people with a learning disability and autism in Shetland to advance into employment if they so wish. COPE wants to ensure that all the barriers to employment are addressed in a way which can be tailored for each individual, and by doing so, we can ensure that the individuals have the best chance of achieving their potential and will grow to value themselves and be valued in the community. As Sarah said, we've got 4 business units, so we look at supporting people with employment and skill development within that 4 business units. And we want to raise the profile and the community awareness, and we do that using our social media platform to capture everyday opportunities and success. Thank you, Jen. So who we work alongside, and I think that this is what I touched on earlier about being very personal centered and that holistic approach. So we work alongside families and carers, other support services, social work, day services, supported living. We work really, really closely with a learning disability nurse. Unfortunately, for a few years, we have had nobody in that position, and it could be quite challenging at times for COPE and for the local authority when we really needed that input to support somebody. But we have got somebody in place now that is excellent and has come to Shetland with a wealth of knowledge and experience. So we are really glad that we've got a new learning disability nurse in Shetland. I also sit and represent COPE on the Employability Providers Group, and I think that we'll be chatting about the No and Left Behind a bit later. But that is key operational employers in Shetland that provide and work in partnership. We meet to review any updates through No and Left Behind and really look at how we can all be using our own voices to ensure that we're getting our messages across through the No One Left Behind. That's fine, Jane. Training opportunities for our participants and our supported employees is a core element and is very much part of someone's individual employability plan and personal development plan. This plan is agreed with the individual and the guardian if somebody's got a guardian support, and is regularly reviewed. ASDAN, we're a registered ASDAN centre, and we provide the Work-Right Award. This award provides a framework for developing a range of basic transferable employability skills, and there's 4 modules within that award: health and safety at work, responsibility in the workplace, working with others, and you at work. That's evidence-based portfolio that the individual will work on and build their portfolio as they work through the award. We also do some bespoke training at the Shetland College, and they provide training for food hygiene, manual handling training, and customer service. And we do in-house training that also works along with the ASDAN award, and that would be the operation of our EPOS till systems, health and safety awareness, working with others, confidence building, communication skills, organisational skills, timekeeping, development of social skills, literacy and numeracy, and decision making. Thank you, Jen. How we monitor progress. Again, this is done and it's very personal centred to each individual that we support at COPE, but we work really closely with the individual themselves and also the wider team at COPE. We meet really regularly with our support staff, with our team leaders, because we know from experience that communication is key. I'm hearing a beep. We have got personal development plans in place for each individual, and we would set achievable aims and goals for the individuals that we support. We review placements on a 6-monthly basis, and we have just recently, just before lockdown, organised quarterly participants meetings for our participants and support employees, and that is to ensure that their voices has been listened to and heard, and that they feel valued, but also gives us the opportunity to be able to update them with any operational news. I would send out annual questionnaires to families, carers, other stakeholders to gain feedback, and also through community learning exchange. We just recently had an organisation up here from Canterbridge and Inverness, and it was just a really great opportunity to share experiences, to chat about some of the challenges that we all face, and it's a really positive learning exchange for both parties. The social impact, I think COPE has a social impact on the participants each day that we work with directly. We are able to support them in the work environment and ensure that they are feeling safe and valued, and they're also participating in our local community. Thank you, Jen. So we thought we'd share a couple of case studies with you. And I think before we chat about our case studies, because they're 2 really positive case studies, I think it's worth mentioning that we do have really challenging times as well. And we support people that to enable them and to ensure that it's the right support, that we have to work very, very closely with families and carers and other agencies and stakeholders. And we have had some challenges and we've had some sad outcomes, but we're going to share with you today two really positive case studies that's going on for us, just fairly, like they're either quite new or currently going on for us. We've changed the names of the individuals in the case studies just to protect confidentiality. But Jane started in COPE in 2016. So she has been with us for 6 years. She's got a mild learning disability, but has complex epilepsy. Prior to her starting with her placement at COPE, she attended college in 2014, 2015 to undertake some short courses, and she also has a HNC in art. The referral into COPE in 2016 was through community care. And initially when Jane came to COPE, she was very, very unsure of the areas that she wanted to work in. So what we did is we offered her a variety of placements. So she worked in our garden centre, in production, and also in the retail part of the garden centre. And then she moved into the production area at SOAP. But we are obviously always monitoring and reviewing somebody's placements. And at that time she said, Alison, I think that the area that I would really, really love to work is in retail. So Jane went down into the Shetland Soap Company retail department, where she is still currently at. Over the years, she really has flourished in her confidence and self-esteem. She's just really, really doing so well. And we always discuss her personal aspirations, and her goals and her aspirations was that she wanted to get a part-time job. She felt that she wouldn't be able to work full-time, but she would love to get a part-time job in retail. And she said she could see herself working in Mackay's because she's very interested in clothes and all the nice things. So we chatted to Jane about what was next for her, because we really felt that as part of her plan and as part of her goals and outcomes and her confidence and self-esteem, that actually she was gotten to a stage that we needed to then look on at what was next for Jane. Now, obviously, that's really can be really worrying and make people anxious, especially, to be honest, for Jane's family. They were probably more worried about Jane moving on than Jane herself. So we approached Project Search, and we have been working very, very closely. We did job coaches at Project Search to do an enhanced transition to support Jane, but also to support Jane's family. And also we wanted to make sure that the relationship between the job coach and Jane herself were established, yeah, moving forward. So we've had Jane's job coach through Project Search coming into the retail shop down the stairs, and we've done that for about 6 months. So now that Jane is going to move on, that they've established that relationship, the job coach can see the skills and the tasks that Jane has developed in her time at COPE. And they are now actually looking at Jane getting some additional work experience placements within the local community, which is absolutely brilliant. So all going to plan, Jane will be moving on from COPE in October this year. We will be really sad to see her go, because she has become so much part of the team at the Shetland Soap Company, and she has got a brilliant relationship with the wider team, the other participants. She's built friendships, relationships up that she'll be able to take with her when she moves on. So we will really miss her, but we're really excited for her future because she is really, really feeling ready to move on. And I think that previously I spoke about 2 different pathways into COPE, and that There's the 18-month, up to 18-month support and up to the 36-month support. However, because we are so personal centered, I would never be going to a community care review and saying somebody is ready to move on if they weren't. So, so Jane's case study one, I'm going to pass you over to Sarah, and she's going to give you another example of a positive case study at COPE.
Okay, cheers, Alison. Okay, so this gentleman is called Frank, and he started with us in COPE in 2017. Now, Frank has a learning disability and autism. His aspirations and goals have always been, since day one, that he wanted to be a van driver. And so he really thoroughly wanted to work at the home company, because there's a lot of loading of vans, and there's going on vans, and there's working in the back area and stuff. So this really suited the needs that he initially presented to us. So he predominantly worked in production at home company. However, with Frank, his communication was always extremely challenging. He was very shy. His social skills weren't that great. And that's what we decided to work on with him, was his social skills. And it is lovely to be part of somebody's journey when they come into COPE, especially if they're not very strong with social skills. And sometimes we take it for granted, but just having staff and participants in a tea room every morning chatting about what they watched on TV, that somebody like Frank maybe initially would just sit back and just listen, and then his confidence would grow and he would be able to access that conversation and give his viewpoint. And over a period of 2 years, his confidence, his self-esteem and his skills flourish. And it was wonderful to witness that growth and confidence with him. As part of his own development, he decided to take driving lessons and was very excited when he passed his driving test. And luckily for Frank, he was over 25. So we were able to insure him so that he could use the van here at COPE. However, we were in a great position that the van driver, we have 2 of them here at COPE working out of the home company, a vacancy came up, and we discussed this with Frank and said, would he like to be considered for it? So we put him through an internal interview, and actually he is now a supported employee, and he works on our Shetland Home Co van alongside the other van driver. And the excitement around that job and passing his test and all of that, it's that social impact for him, his family, you can't measure that in pounds. You know, it was just fabulous to see his progression since he's been with us for the last 5 years or so. But as Alison touched on earlier, we were discussing before we came online that these are really great 2 successful success stories for us and for Frank and for Jane. But as Alison rightly said, not all of them end like that. And some of them, you know, Alison especially works really closely with families and carers and other agencies to make sure that the individual is well supported through the process. Whatever the outcomes should be, everybody always feels well supported. And I think that's really important in what we do on a day-to-day basis here at COPE. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's us. Thank you. Shall I talk through this? Okay, so our strategic aims is extend the reach of COPE social impact to tackle inequalities and the promotion of inclusion. And obviously post-pandemic, the climate has very much affected all of us, and we're all up against the same kind of challenges. But as I said earlier, we always are ambitious here at COPE, and we always look forward. We will always encourage the pursuit of skill development opportunities for all within COPE, ensure the efficient and effective governance of COPE, engage in the pursuit of business growth opportunities to sustain and grow the financial sustainability of COPE Limited. And that is something that we talk about a lot, is, you know, we balance those 2 very carefully, because we need to make money to sustain the service, but we also need to be able to provide excellent quality in these placements so that we continue with our service level agreement with the local authority. That's where we get our placements from. So it works hand in hand, and one wouldn't work without the other. And obviously contribute to the national development of social enterprise as a business model. Thank you, Jane. And we just thought we'd put a nice cheery, sunny photograph of some of the team here at COPE Limited, taken outside our garden. This is a pre-COVID picture, I think, isn't it? Yeah, and thank you for listening. And I suppose, do you have any questions? Predominantly for Alison, I suppose.
Alison, Sarah, thank you so much for that. I mean, I always love hearing social enterprises talk about the employability work they do, because the care they have for the people that they support and the passion that they have for the work that they do just shines through. And I'm very fond of your straightforward, no nonsense test of, will it make money and will it develop skills? Brilliant. So I am going to open up for questions. So please, if you are showing your face, you can wave a hand. If not, then just put your virtual hand up. And Mike, I'll come to you first. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you. I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for that presentation. It was quite very inspirational. I had a couple of questions. One was to do with funding, which you touched on, as to where does your funding come from? And the other question was about sort of support from the local authority, as to how you work with them. I work in a place called Garville, Edinburgh, that is I suppose it's a day service for adults with learning disability. We operate as an enterprise. We have a shop, we have a working bakery, confectionery, textiles, etc. And we, 30 years ago, were involved in opening the engine shed, which was for a training for work, which eventually became squeezed and, I suppose, a lot unsupported by the local authority as a route to getting people into work. The model changed to it was within that. I mean, it's just this: how are you viewed by the local authority, and how does your funding model work?
So I suppose we have been around for 25 years, so we have built a great relationship with the local authority. But I also want to say that we do generate nearly 70–75% of our own through our own takings over the tills. So we do have a service level agreement with the local authority to provide these placements. And we also have a small grant that we have from a charitable organisation just based here in Shetland. But we do work hard to be able to sustain ourselves. We also obviously apply for pots of money, like we all do, for different projects and for different things at different times. But those are the key kind of funders for us, is the local charitable one that we have here in Shetland and the local authority, and then our own sustainability through our own enterprises.
Okay.
But Alison, you were going to talk about support as well, because I think you mentioned that as well.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think as Sarah said, the relationship between COPE and the local authority is really positive, and we're really, really grateful for that. We're not wanting to touch too much on COVID, because we are now out of COVID, hopefully. But just to touch on that in terms of when we went into lockdown, and as restrictions started to lift, we were able to start to get people back to work, and we were the first, I don't know what to call ourselves, service, but we were the first service to actually be able to get some of our participants back out into the community and participating. But we had to do that. We had to do that safely. There was a lot of different things that we had to put in place to enable us to be able to take people back to take people back safely. So initially, when we came back was it September 2020?
Yeah.
We were only delivering 24% of our placements. And then I started to gradually build on that as the months went past. So we're actually just back up to our 100 placements just fairly recently. And the local authority has been and understood exactly why and how we've gone through the processes that we've gone through. And they've not put any additional pressure on us to get back up to that 100 placements. They've worked with us.
Right, good. No, thank you. That's helpful.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks both. Okay, does anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like to share about either their existing employability work or planned employability work? Otherwise, you're going to force me to keep talking. I guess one of the things that I could mention here, for those of you that aren't familiar, I think Sarah maybe touched on, or anyway, you mentioned the Community Learning Exchange, which is a fully funded program from one of our partners, Scottish Community Alliance, and that basically funds social and community enterprises to go and visit other social and community enterprises within the UK for that kind of peer support, shared learning, networking, connecting, that side of things. And you can do it one-to-one, or you can do a group visit, which obviously sort of increases the learning, increases the connections. And CES is one of the partners in that programme, so it covers your travel and your accommodation, and it will pay the host a fee to cover their time and costs, I guess, that they incur as well, and their expertise, obviously. So if you're interested in that, please do get in touch. It's highly recommended. It's a brilliant programme. We're hoping to get a couple of community learning exchanges arranged, group community learning exchanges arranged, this year, although we are hurtling towards the end of this year already, unfortunately. It's time's flying. Anyway, so that's the community learning exchange. Anyone else got anything that they would like to add or ask? Everybody seems very quiet today. I'm going to pick on someone. No, I shan't do that because I don't think that's fair. I guess in terms of cope, I mean, the not standing still and the constantly reinventing and the constantly looking at new opportunities, plus the sort of employability and ensuring individuals are so well supported, but also taking into account your island location. Does that kind of pose unique challenges, do you think?
Yes and no, I suppose. We're very, very lucky that we do live on such a great island and we are supported locally, and we're quite well known in Shetland as an organisation and what we do. So we've got that back history that that you might possibly not have if we were in a bigger city somewhere south. But also it does limit what we can do in our enterprises and how we can make more money. But the Shetland Soap Company is a business that we have in the last 5 years been brave and started to take it off island. We rebranded and we decided, right, this is the one that we can maybe take as a outward facing part of the enterprise. And we decided to go to Scotland Trade Fair and see if anybody would like to stock our products. And that journey has just been phenomenal for us. And it's led to other avenues of business that we now work with procurement and facility companies as far south as London, because during the pandemic, everybody wanted soap and we were happy to provide it. So yes and no, I think, is the answer. Alison, you might have a different view on our island existence.
I think in terms of placements and so on, obviously there's the no one left behind, and that approach is to really look at tackling employment issues and so on. And I sit on the Employability Providers Group, as I previously mentioned, and I suppose because it's Shetland and there is it's not like in the middle of a huge city, that the people on that group, it's not massive numbers. So it's really positive that I can go along and really amplify and support people with a learning disability, because certainly for us here in Shetland, there is still gaps in provision. And one of those gaps is around supported employment opportunities for people. I mean, as we previously said, we've got 5 supported employee positions within the organisation, and we'd absolutely love to be able to employ more people, but we've got to make the money over the counters to enable us to be able to do that. And that's really, that is challenging. But I was chatting to somebody else that sits on the local employability providers group that actually works as an employee at the Shetland Islands Council yesterday. And I think that we are actually getting there. I do feel that people are starting to listen to us here in Shetland, so that some of that gaps in provision that that we've been highlighting and raising, to be honest, for a few years now, I do feel as if we're making some headway. And I do think that although there's lots of challenges in relation to the no one left behind, I think that is helping us to be able to get our point across. Yes, some challenges, but also it can be really positive.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I guess given the employment rates are historically low for adults with learning disabilities, you know, it is good to make sure that those voices are amplified at any possible opportunity. Yeah, thanks. So I've got David and Jenny with their hands up, or David first, then Jenny, and a question from Ian in the chat. David, over to you.
Great, thanks, Jane, and thanks to you both for your presentation. I think it kind of answered that a wee bit. My first thought was about, you know, the glass ceiling effect that most social enterprises face in terms of growth and scale, and how you've addressed that. But I think you know, the fact that you can provide your own outcomes and you can employ people, then certainly you're in control of that. But I just wondered, following the pandemic, have you recognised or seen any issues in terms of engagement with the people with learning disabilities? You know, I know across the country there are some people, you know, that have been shielding for 2 years, have been told that they're vulnerable, have told to stay in, and then all of a sudden, okay, it's back to normal, everybody out you come again. Have you noticed any change in your numbers and the engagement levels as a result of that?
I think, to be honest, initially when we started to get people back, we did have some people that were in the shielding category. What we did is we completed COVID-19 risk assessments, and we actually got that people back to work at the same time as all our other participants. Initially, we didn't see any challenges, and we weren't seeing really any change in terms of people's behaviours or mental health. But actually, some people fairly recently, there's been more issues, and we do wonder if that is just coming back, like everything being so different, and now we're coming back to normal life, I suppose. And now that seems to be that we're having slightly more impact. That's having slightly more impact on some individuals. Hence, our relationship with Learning Disability Nurse, which is grateful that he's here because he's been able to provide brilliant support to ensure that people is getting the correct support moving forward. So I hope that answers your questions. Not initially, but probably a bit more.
Yeah.
And, I would probably add as well, Alison, hopefully you'll agree with me, that during the pandemic, so yeah, we closed down here the same as everybody else in March, and as Alison said, started to get participants back in that September, but throughout that period that we were closed and the staff started to come back in July, August, we kept in touch with our guys. So Alison and the team leaders, we would have FaceTime with them, we would phone them weekly. And that keeping in touch for us was really important, because Alison touched on earlier, some of our participants live in the outer islands and they would be really isolated. And we would do group chats as well so that people could see each other. And that was hugely beneficial, that when we came back, yes, it had been a different period, but we'd kept in touch, and that was really important. And the other thing that we found was that pre-pandemic, because of the different businesses that we had, we could offer Joe 4 sessions a week, and 2 of them could be at the home company and 2 of them could be in soap production. And we thought that's great. It's expanding people's horizons, giving them a taste of different and opportunities and tasks. But when we came back from the pandemic, the safe way to do it was we created bubbles within all the businesses, and never the twain shall meet. We never moved between those bubbles. So Joe, as an example, would now be doing his 4 sessions in the garden after discussion, obviously, and they were happy to do that. And what we found was that people were actually more settled. No brainer. If we hadn't had the pandemic, we probably would still be doing what we used to do. That was a huge learning for us, because we were like, well, yeah, of course people will be more settled, because if I worked 5 days a week and 3 of them I was here and 2 of them I was there, I would never see a task from start to finish, and all of that. We hadn't probably reflected on that before. We just assumed we were giving everybody a great opportunity. But initially when people came back, it was very settled, and everybody felt safe and secure within those bubbles. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, and sorry, Jenny, I'm stealing your space here. Just a quick point, and I think for an enterprise like yourself that's employing people from underrepresented groups, what would be really beneficial for us? You know that there's a lot of stigma and there's a lot of misconceived attitudes and views out there that actually, whilst the case studies about the individuals are really good in the progression, it would also be good for you to promote the growth of the business as a result, so that actually employing disabled people or people with learning disabilities isn't just a nice thing to do. Actually, the financial income and benefit there is huge.
And they're very much part of the team. We can't operate without them. They're very much part of the team. They make up half our workforce. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, thanks, David. That's a really key point. There was something you said, Alison, about giving people the best chance to achieve their potential and to value themselves and to be valued in the community and in the business. And I think that kind of shines through too. So thank you. Jenny, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Well, I'm a bit husky, so I apologise in advance if you can't hear me. I suppose it's more of a general point of discussion, probably not for now, but would be interesting to cover at some point, is the issue with using the phrase employability and the number of people that misses. Because we at Makoko, we don't use the word employability, because with it comes the need to prove our success. And the cohort of young people and adults that we work with at Makoko, if we're all honest with each other, will not find employment elsewhere because of the very high level of support need that they have. So when we use this phrase employability, when we're talking about any kind of employment opportunities for disabled people, there is a danger that we're missing the most missed out group of people. And I'd just be interested to hear anybody else's view on that.
Yeah.
I know, and I think if you look up the definition of employability, it's usually over 16 hours. But like, we are always singing and screaming and making noises to say that actually somebody could be working at COPE in the functioning business unit and be volunteering for 2 hours a week, and that is every bit as meaningful for that individual as somebody that's getting 16 hours paid work.
I think it's also this idea that employability, to be successful in employability, is determined by how many people go on to get other employment. So our task as an employability organisation should be, our aim should be that the people that we work with go on and find paid employment. Just not going to happen in my lifetime. It's not going to happen. So therefore, are we failing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge question, which we are not going to cover today, but actually it could be a follow-on session potentially, and maybe we get some employability policy folk involved in that as well. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we're talking about no one left behind, and actually potentially it means that people will be even further left behind, even further excluded. When employability is focused solely on the outcome of a job, I think that's pretty limiting for people in general. So thanks for raising that, Jenny.
The workplaces generally need to change for that to happen, so that there are opportunities for our guys.
And that would be the same for us here at COPE. You know, our aspiration would be that we could access a pot of money that means that we can actually part fund some of our guys to come on to our employment. The thing is always to move people on to different avenues. Why can't they stay here and be employed with us in a supportive environment? But the financial side of that, as Alison touched on earlier, it's that fine balancing. But you're right, Jenny.
No, absolutely. I always remember one of our members went to a very well-known funder to ask for funding for an employability program, but it would be to keep the individuals within that social enterprise and being supported in that understanding environment. And when they were asked about whether those individuals would move on and were told no, that was unlikely, the social enterprise were told they had paucity of ambition, which, you know, I think it's for the individuals themselves to decide what's of value to them rather than the funder particularly. But yes, okay. So Ian, we can probably just squeeze your question in. It was around, if you want to come on, you can say it, or I can read it from the chat. Do you have a preference? Right, okay. So the question is, when you're generating up to 75% of your revenue from your own commercial activity, does debt finance or social investment constitute part of the business model? Is that something you've explored or taken advantage of?
No, it hasn't. We've been really lucky up until now. But from a social finance point of view, as I said earlier, we have accessed pots of money before, say from Highland Islands enterprises for different projects. We've worked with Social Investment Scotland in the past as well. But at the moment, our enterprises are working for us, but it's hard work. It really is. And again, when we talked earlier about our island existence, we're very lucky where we are because we do get well supported.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I guess social investment makes up one of the options for social enterprises in general, but it's making sure that you're accessing it at the right time for your organisation. Absolutely. Mike, back to you.
It was just another question towards Cope, but it was, have you found that you've had to a degree streamline people or limit what you do based on the people you're working with? I guess what we find is we've got I say one of the things we have is a working bakery, and we have to be quite limited to how much we take on. So we deliver around shops and cafes, but we often say we can't respond to much more than that. But just because the more we take on, the more the risk is that we marginalise some of the people that we're there to support. Probably everybody will have an experience of there's some people who once they get into the swing of it are really able to contribute to what you're doing. There's other people who spend a bit of time observing what's going on and just being in the environment, and there's other people who spend a fair bit of their time actively pulling against the activity because of their support needs. I just wondered, have you found you've had to, I suppose, to balance the commercial needs of the business and the support part of it? I've had to say that certain places aren't appropriate for some people.
I think it's probably a daily consideration for us. I mean, we do have a referral process, as Alison said, but also the needs of the guys or what they're limited that they can do or what they actually can do varies from person to person, and there will always be a task that we will find that will suit that person's needs. But yeah, it's a valid point that you're making, definitely.
And I think as part of somebody's referral into the organisation, for some people there will be an enhanced transition into COPE as well, where we can actually really get to know the individual and their families. So that sometimes a referral process for actually getting somebody in the door can be up to about 6 months. But we want to make sure that it's absolutely right, and that people are feeling that it's the right time to come into the organisation. So it very much depends on the individual. And in terms of tasks and so on, it might well be that we're supporting somebody with autism, and that they may start in a quieter environment, like one of our production areas. But once they've kind of built their confidence and built relationships, that we would support them to move on and try other activities.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Okay, so I think we've kind of come to the end of the session. I will park my no one left behind questions, and maybe I'll follow up this session with an email out to you all with the presentation and with Sarah and Alison's contact details, and maybe a bit of information about the community learning exchange. And I will ask my no one left behind questions then, and you can come back to me individually if you like. So it just remains for me to say the biggest thank you to Sarah and Alison for sharing their story with us, and all the fantastic work that they do, hard though it is, and to hope to wish you all a very enjoyable rest of your day. Thank you all for coming. See you later.
Thank you, Jen.